Have you ever woke up in the middle of a dream and the dream was so interesting that you wanted to go back to sleep to see the end of it? If so, what was the dream? Me. Wakes up. That was a cool dream, I really want to continue it. My brain 2 seconds later, what dream? I have a recurring dream that comes to me when I least expect it, and I always wake up at the exact same moment. It's usually somewhere between 3 to 4:30, and I can't go back to sleep afterwards. I'm in a dystopian future. In my memory of the dream, I have control, as events change often, but within an overarching story. It's like a video game, almost, but I don't control the narrative. Things still happen to me, and mostly, they aren't excellent. It's a fight for survival, but it's exhilarating. The world's electrical grid has been decimated already. On top of grid, it's electronics. Some kind of EMP phenomenon. We are in the wake of the event, deep enough that a lot of people have started dying because of lack of access to resources. The government is completely useless in mediating or helping. Food isn't being dispensed because communication chains have devolved. Many of the soldiers and police have deserted to take care of their families, because they know food isn't making it to the communities. No trucks. No planes. No distribution. I am living in North Georgia in the mountains near my father's property. He is all about self-sufficiency, so he has resources for precisely this event, in real life, probably driving the narrative. Here is where things get janky. The EMP event is an alien attack. We catch sight of ships flying in the atmosphere, but no signs of anything on the ground. We don't know, in the beginning, that they are aliens. The ships could be man-made. No one is sure, but it causes a lot of disagreement with the neighbors, etc. The neighbors form a tighter community. There is certainly a sense of in-group vs out-group as folks from the city start meandering north in search of food. The city's supplies of cans and pantry supplies have been exhausted in the few months since the incident. I don't have time to go into more depth now, but I always wake up right in the moment of our first contact, right before I see the aliens. It drives me crazy. I want to know what they look like. In the 10 to 11 times I've had the dream, I never get to see them, and I can't fall back asleep. Utterly frustrating. I was actually just having a dream where I caught my wife, don't actually have a wife right now, cheating on me with some fucker. Then fucker decides to get at me before I can get at him by actually blowing up my house. I tried to call the fire department but accidentally called a donut shop. This happens to me all of the time. Whenever this happens, I start writing about the dream as fast as I can on the notes section in my phone. Then you can reread your vivid dreams later. I have quite a few saved. Sort of. My wife died 10 years ago this month. I still dream about her. Sometimes we are in different roles, like people who barely know each other or two people who are just good friends. Sometimes we're still young and in love and just hanging out doing everyday stuff, spending time together. Those are the ones I hate waking up from. Rip Renee. Victoria's Secret models. Nudity. Me. I was on a date and ice skating. Somehow I could tell I just really was in love with this person. Everything was perfect. It wasn't anything too crazy or exciting, but it was fantastic. I recently had a wholesome dream that I wish I never woke up from it. Too many to count. As far back as I can remember, I could control most of my dreams, especially as a kid. I could do what I wanted, defy laws of physics, change sky color to green and grass to blue, interesting and fun stuff. Countless times I'd be having a lucid dream and after waking decide I'd like to continue the same dream the next night, pick it up then and continue the same dream thread. One of my favorite things to do was when I was asleep and recognized a dream starting that I knew I'd dreamed before, to change it around to see what different paths it could take. Sadly, I began to lose that ability in my late 20s to the point now that a lucid dream happens once a month or so, but it's still so much fun. I'm usually able to go back into my dream. I just lay down and put myself back into that world by remembering everything that I can and imagining different scenarios until I fall back asleep. Works like a charm. I had one where I found the love of my life. There was this warm feeling in my stomach that wouldn't go away. Everything was amazing. Also, he made small wooden hedgehogs that came to life. I woke up still feeling that warmth, told my brain we're going back, but brain was like nah, fuck you. One of those lifelong dreams, spent a few years with a woman who I can't even remember now. It happens to me all the time. Happened a couple of times last night, in fact. The only thing is, I can't recall the details. I can parkour in the dream and it feels like flying. Simply amazing feeling. I was delivering a baby, and I was almost to the point where I could tell if it was a boy or a girl. My friend that was giving birth kept asking. I woke up just before we found out. I've had that same dream about a dozen times. The Teletubbies had taken over the world with their brainwashing tubby custard. Tinky Winky was just about to reveal his master plan of why he was doing this when my mom woke me up. I never got to go back. I can do this thing called lucid dreaming. And when I wake up before my dream finishes, I just force it to continue when I go back to sleep. It's pretty cool. I had this one dream where I was in a spaceship and it was about to crash. Then when I woke up I just went back to sleep and continued. I didn't die. I jumped last second and lived. I understand jumping at the last second wouldn't actually work. But it was a dream. I had a dream version of Istanbul I went to from time to time. I had all manner of adventures in that city. It had a massive open-air market in an old crater with large steps carved into the sides. I woke up in the middle of most of these dreams, so I never found out how the adventure ended, but they involved thieves, terrorists, and mysterious old antique dealers. I once had a dream that had a proper ending with everything neatly tied up and actually had the credits roll complete with full orchestral accompaniment. I was leaving for college. At the check-in, I get kissed, finally, by this girl. We had a good friendship but kinda went cold for a while in school. Maybe cause she didn't want PPL at school to know she was gay. Oh, I'm a girl. All of the above was the dream. I have once had a dream I traveled out of country. I don't remember where I ended up, but I remember I was backpacking and enjoying mountains unlike anything I had ever seen. In my dream I remember feeling this deep serenity and sureness. As though I was happy. I was away from everything and a part of something so much larger than me. I remember taking in the mountains and the temperature was chilly and the green hills and the wind. It wasn't sunny, in fact a storm was coming. I remember I fell so in love with where I was at that I abandoned anything I had known and decided I was going to live where I was. That happened a lot more unexpectedly than I anticipated. I visited a town, a small one, and met with the most beautiful woman I had ever seen. Beautiful as in I found her personally just beautiful, not beautiful as she was the most beautiful woman ever. I remember talking to her and getting to know her. I quickly remember I was moving there and this was going to be where I lived my life and it was going to be different. It happened, but the place suddenly became about her. In my dream I fell in love harder than I had ever been with anyone. This woman was blonde, blue eyes, a gorgeous smile and just had this overall personality of adventure. I remember as time went on in the dream I felt deeper connections to her and where I was. The most vivid part of my dream was once when we went to a field for a sort of picnic. I remember reaching for her hand and there were these beautiful mountains in the distance, but where we were was flowers all around. I can remember her foreign accent, her laugh. I can remember falling on the ground and just being close to her. I remember the sun was setting and you could feel the chilly air and its rays. We laid on the ground for a long time. I got married to her, we lived a life together and had kids. Then I woke up and you could imagine how let down I was. I have very real and vivid dreams like this when I sleep really good. Some are even reoccurring. I told a story about one with a killer chasing me forever and it finally ending with us fighting, but it went on for some time. I have had reoccurring dreams about my hometown just being different after recovering from a flood in a world that just fell apart. Each time I have that dream, Earth has come out more and my town has disappeared farther into it. I am always with my father, a brother and a friend. The rest of my family presumably didn't make it. Some monster was trapping me in dream place. Every time I tried to flee he would just appear there again, telling me things about people, a lot of which turned up true. For example, a pregnancy I had yet to been informed about. After that I wanted the dream again, but it never happened again. As a teenager I had a dream which started with me in a swimming pool. I then noticed a girl I knew from school who was wearing a leopard print swimsuit. This is over 30 years ago and the details are still disturbingly clear. The girl then started climbing up an oil rig and I followed her, my eyes firmly fixed on her ascending form. We climbed higher and higher until I heard someone saying, "We've got to get off, it's going to blow." At that point I woke up and nearly wet myself laughing with the hidden message. I tried to go back to sleep, but sadly, I never did get to find out what would have happened at the top of the oil rig. Sorry for grammar, I'm on mobile. So I had this dream where I was a soldier in Vietnam. There were 3 people in my squad, Randy, John, and I forget the other, so let's call him Bob. Our commanding officer told us to scout out a ridge, so we do, and we started taking fire. We're shooting and Randy takes a hit. There are trees on fire and explosions. So Bob, who was our sergeant, tells us to run, so we run back, but we forget Randy. Sam and John go back to save him. We find out from a rice farmer that the Viet Cong took him to a gulag. So we break into the gulag, and we get caught. We grab Randy from his cell, and we start running, and there's an WC explosion and I wake up. Yes, all the time. And sometimes it works, but most of the time it's gone. I've kept a dream journal for a while now, and once in a while I can get back into a good/cool dream. Recently I had a weird one though. Without getting into the nonsense that comes with dreams, basically Neil Diamond asked me to cut off my hand, and I cut off my right hand. But after doing it I started like freaking out, yelling about how bad I fucked up cause I was right-handed. And I was like tossing and turning, and I woke up, or at least I think I did, but I was desperate to go back in the dream and fix it, and whether I woke/fell asleep again in real life or if it was just in the dream, it somehow reset and I was able to cut off my left hand instead and fix things. Then I woke up for real. LOL. Had a dream I was riding a horse through a foresty maze. I was naked and there was no saddle. It was surreal and strange as hell but magical, and there were all these people with animal heads like some kind of god pantheon shit. I legit wanted to see where that one would go. I had a dream that I could fly, but the world I lived in was so strange. It felt like worlds/areas were connected by wormholes or doors that weren't doors, but you could see through what's on the other side. It started out I was flying through this area that was bright and lit up by lots of electronics, and the best way to put it, like a fun room, and either I was incredibly small or everything was so big. Chairs as big as buildings and monitors that made up the sky. I flew around before I went through another area which led me to a city, but it was nighttime and it was like it was encased in a dome. Buildings sat on the edges of the dome and hills of beautiful green grass cased through the whole area. It was kinda like if you could fold Central Park, I've never been there IRL, but what I would assume, into a dome, but it was like a separate universe. Anyways, I landed on the grass of a hill that overlooked most of everything, and the night sky was so beautiful and the grass seemed so fresh in my mind. Lightning bugs started coming up from the grass to lead me somewhere. I saw someone I knew, then woke up. This dream happened like 5 years ago, and I still think about it when the topic of dreams come up. It was so unique and yet so real, but like otherworldly vivid. I can't remember the dream now, but I once had a very good dream when I was young, that I wanted to continue. So the next night, I kept thinking about the details, and succeed in continuing the dream. Naturally I tried it on the third night, but it didn't continue. Though I have now forgotten what was so great about those dreams, every now and then, whenever I had a good dream, I tried to think as much of it as possible on the following night. I dreamed that I was in my perfect world. I was together with the love of my life. That was really the highlight, cause I love her and just can't tell her, so it was so relieving, and everything different was perfect. That was one of those dreams you just wished you would have died in your sleep and just lived on in that dream. I was Spider-Man. I wanna be Spider-Man. I was a Viking in the old days with one of my buddies from school, and we were raiding villages. I was super sick, so I kept waking up in a sweat, but the dream continued every time I fell back asleep. I had an extremely vivid dream where I could clearly see a person's face that I had never met before. The thing is, I never remember anyone's faces, even those people very close to me. I just can't construct their face in my head. So to see someone I don't know so clearly is disconcerting. I just wanna know who they are. Man, this question just gives me flashes of dreams I've had, but I couldn't come close to remembering them. Yes, I have. I have no idea. When I was a kid, I had a dream that I was in the ending of a movie. There were credits rolling. The setting was medieval European with stone castles, etc. Just as the movie ended, I ran as fast as I could and jumped, throwing my legs in front of me. I proceeded to glide like 5 feet off the ground, completely under control. Then I woke up. I know it was super interesting, but I can't remember it for the life of me. A couple of years ago I started lucid dreaming, where you can sort of control your dreams and you actually are aware that you are in a dream, not real life. The weird thing is that if I wake up briefly and go back to sleep, the dream almost always picks up where it left off. If the dream was one that was distressing, I find I have to get out of bed and walk around for a few minutes in the middle of the night to prevent the dream from resuming. I was tiny, walking around in a dining table, climbing up on jam jars and cutlery. I prayed every night as a kid to have that dream again. I was King Kong attacking helicopters. Plenty of times. The worst one was I dreamed of being in love and being loved. I don't remember the person, but I remember it felt like my heart broke when I woke up. Woken. Have you ever woken up? I once had a dream series. Basically there was a murdering nanny that I ended up having to save myself and my friends from. But it started out normal. We were on a lake trip, and the nanny was watching the kids so the parents could have fun. NBD. It was a nice relaxing dream. I woke up, went about my day, told my friends about the dream and whatnot. That night I went back to sleep and picked up the dream right around where it left off. It was super cool. I remember not even being scared that the nanny went crazy and was trying to kill us. This dream series lasted for at least a whole week, but I think it went on a little longer. I had a wet dream about Katy Perry once. I still wish I finished that dream. I am a lucid dreamer. I can take control, but as I take more and more control, it wakes my mind up too much to sleep. Recently I was able to fall back asleep over and over again and basically continue the same dream. The last one that night before I could not get back to sleep again ended with an orientation to why I was chosen, that there are people who exist outside of time and I am now a member, that I will never really die and I will be downloaded when this body fails or dies. I think I am a Cylon. I have weird but interesting dreams pretty often, and very surrealistic ones, and sometimes, inside the dream I kind of realize that it is a dream, but I keep with it. Those moments are like when a movie breaks the fourth wall and then keeps going. When I have one of those cool dreams I realize that it may be cut in an interesting moment, and sometimes it keeps going. The thing is that the following part is usually disappointing. It changes the matter of the dream. I can pass from being in a battle with some sectorate allies to be running from a tsunami, or the following part just doesn't make many sense. So I feel less bad when one of those interesting dreams